And actually, Malad, there's a wonderful report of Justice Shah, I think at the Law Commission, which actually sets out the practices in all the countries, UK, US, Japan, Philippines, Australia, and Germany. And in all those countries, there is no question of any opacity. Most countries do not allow corporate donations at all. But where they do allow, there is no opacity. And this is all at PDF page. Your Lordships may only note it, 296 in volume 4.
The Article 14 argument.
Yes. Yes, my lords. The scheme is wholly arbitrary. It has to be struck down on its terms. It has nothing to do only with elections and how you spend your money in the electoral process. The scheme must be such, it must be proportionate to the objects sought to be achieved. And the underlying principle under the Constitution is free and fair election, which is a basic feature of the Constitution. How are you serving these three purposes, Malad? You are serving none of these three. No legitimate object because it is not limited to the elections. No proportionality because it's unlimited. And no free and fair elections because my learned friend has shown to your Lordships how heavily it is loaded towards the party in power. So you are creating a non-level playing field through the electoral bonds. And that's violative of 324. Now, Malad, historically, as your Lordship knows, Malad, in 1969, through legislation, we had, Malad, prohibited corporate donations altogether. And then 1985, Malad, through an amendment, we said, okay, the corporate sector can donate, but only to the extent of 5% of the average earnings in the last 3 years, 3 financial years.
5% or 7.5%?
I'm sorry? Initially 5%. Whereas 85 was 5%. Then through an amendment, it was 2013 Act, it was changed to 7.5.
2000?
13. The Companies Act. Well, actually, I've put it all in the written submissions, but because my learned colleagues are waiting for me to end, so I'm not wanting to take their time. Well, your Lordships have said that do it, be as short as possible. But whatever I have said to your Lordships, Malad, are the propositions that emerge from the scheme itself. Well, it must never be forgotten that this Constitution is citizen-centric. It is for the citizens to decide to donate. If you want corporate funding, then that corporate funding must be for the electoral process. It must not be for political parties. Otherwise, it will not be free and fair election. But if the voice of the corporate sector drowns the voices of citizens, that's a very dangerous trend in democracy. In fact, under the very concept of a market economy, capital symbolizes power. And it may be in any sector of the economy, as it is in politics. The more capital you have, the more power you have. The electoral process must be such that it must provide a level playing field to all participants. Fair and free elections, or free and fair elections, is the basic structure of the Constitution. The moment you allow the corporate sector to donate, whether with transparency or without transparency, I'll come to that a little later, it is inconsistent with the concept of a corporate sector which is in the business of doing business. You have a memorandum of association which tells you what the objects of the corporation are. The shareholders put in their money to ensure that the corporation functions within the framework of the memorandum of association. Now you give the power through an amendment of this nature to allow shareholders' money to be used inconsistent with the memorandum of the association. It's a very serious issue. And without consultation and without the consent of the shareholder. Under which law, and I ask myself this question, can this ever be allowed? I buy shares in a company. It may be listed, it may not be listed.
But just one caveat, Mr. Sibal, which is that we are not here on the challenge to the legality of a law providing for corporate donations per se. That wider issue is not before
No,
us.
I agree. But
For the reason that that's what Justice Chagla flagged, even in Chief Justice Chagla flagged even in 1958. He said there should be no corporate donation, but we are not really dealing with that. So
I'm not on that.
Really into that area at all, because 293 anyway allowed.
Well, I'm not on that. I'm on a wide
On what you said in the latter part of your formulation, without the consultation and the approval of the shareholders.
That's the point.
Yes.
That's the point. That's why I said,
Otherwise, the broader philosophical perspective that, look, allowing corporate donations is really permitting some form of quid pro quo.
No. Malad, I'm not on that because my learned friend
We needn't go
has argued
in
that.
broad area here, because in that sense, the moment we accepted 293, our society legitimized corporate quid pro quo.
Malad,
But there is an element of quid pro quo the moment you have corporate donations.
Exactly, Malad. There's no
But
doubt about it.
therefore, I mean,
That's why
a large public limited company who makes a donation doesn't give it for charity.
Exactly.
Or for, for
that's why I said
perpetrating a
capital
cause
and
of
influence are Siamese twins, Malad.
So we shouldn't really in that
I'm
sense
not going there, Malad. I'm not. That's why I said that what you're doing in this process is that you are allowing through the electoral bond process to not inform the shareholder as to how his money is going to be spent. Right? And that's a very serious issue because he is invested in the company not for the purposes of donating to X and Y. And Malad, this whole concept of black money, I mean, I don't understand. The cash that is given below 2,000 can be black money. The 20,000 rupees has to be disclosed. That also can be black money. Because you can say cash in hand, 20,000 rupees. And the electoral bond can also be black money. And over and above that, there is black money. Because there is cash that doesn't go into electoral bonds. So what is this black money issue about? The kind of extravaganzas that we see, Malad, is what? Is it white money? So this has nothing to do with black money. This is the case of the government. That black money was used earlier, no doubt. Black money is used today, no doubt. There is more cash in the market than it was in 2014 or 2019. That's government's own statistics. So black money is a bogey. And all three elements can be part of black money. That can't be an argument. This is nothing to do with the electoral bonds, if you ask me. It is donation to a political party to use the funds as they like. The nomenclature suggests electoral bonds means this is for the purposes of the election. There is nothing in the scheme. There is nothing in the scheme which connects the donation made to the participation in the electoral process. Nothing. It is a means for political parties to be enriched. Why do I say that? I make a donation of 10 crores to a political party through an electoral bond. The political party opens a current account and 10 crores goes into that account. Now that political party can actually give that money to the mainstream media channel and say, you propagate my ideology. Or give a present to somebody. Or do what you want to do with it.
There are no spending requirements.
None, zero. That's the most serious issue. Because you can spend this money any way you like. You can build your offices. You can build your offices all over the country with that money. You can set up a whole network throughout the country with that money. You can use advertising campaign for whatever you like with that money. Show your face 20 times a day. And see the nexus. The corporate sector gives money to the political party. The political party and the corporate sector owns a media house. Just look at the nexus. The corporate donor owns the media house. The corporate donor gives it to the political party. The political party uses the media house. No questions asked.
Constitutional argument. Going on some
No.
personal instances.
I'm not talking of any instance. I'm talking about the scheme. Please do not interfere. I'm talking about the scheme. I'm not talking about any instance. That's the law.
Electoral bond.
But this is, of course, hopefully it is.
Yeah, of course.
I thought we were sitting before 5 judges. I thought I realized by now it is.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, thank you. Got to know about it from you.
Mr. Sibbal's submissions are in which volume?
Volume 1.
Again, volume 1, right?
Yes,
Yes,
volume 1. All the submissions.
All the submissions
volume
are.
1.
Yes, we got
And it's page 48.
48.
PDF 48.
Done.
And if you I'll take few minutes, Mother, then I'll be done. Because my learned friends, I want to give them time too. The first, Mother's few pages are just the scheme itself, the electoral bond scheme itself, goes up to PDF page 63. My lords have that. It's just the elements of the electoral bond scheme which have already been explained to your lordships. So I will not trouble your lordships with that. That's been explained. But you come to 63, then I deal with the issue of free and fair elections under the Constitution. And I say it's the basic feature of the Constitution. And it's now recognized that para 15, as I say, as will be developed below, any nature of funding that is opaque and that seeks to hide the source of funding is contrary to the spirit of free and fair elections, which is part of the basic structure. That's the transparency argument, plus the free and fair in the context of which, in the context of my submissions before your lordships now. Then election is a vehicle of representative democracy. I've given judgments, page 66, and then para 17 at 66 is the constitutional mandate of free and fair elections under the principle of universal adult franchise is the central pillar of our democratic culture. Under our political system, elected representatives do not have any political legitimacy independent of the will of the people and must discharge their duties in public trust. Then, therefore, you must interpret superintendent's direction and control of the conduct of elections in that context. That's set out at page 67, end of paragraph 19. Then I differentiate between freedom and fairness, which is para 20. And para 24, I say economic power at page 68. Economic power presents a grave risk to any level playing field between individual citizens and groups and can give some voices a disproportionate say in deciding the agenda of the political parties and hence the laws and policies that will govern the entire country. In pluralistic democracies like India, practices must emerge that preserve the equal voice of all citizens and that ensure that the special needs of all groups are heard. Then, whereas Justice Bhagwati's judgment in Kamallar Gupta's case, let's leave that out. I think that's one extreme position which I don't want to argue. And then, then this is important. Kindly see, para 36 at page 72. Reiterating my learned friend's submission that it's the voters' right to know. That's fine. So dealt with. And then, so the three issues, I have raised at page PDF 75, whether corporate donations should be allowed at all, but that's not a question that your lordships has to answer. If yes, what kinds of companies should be allowed to make such donations? If corporate donations are allowed, what cap of net profits should be set? And who is the appropriate body within the corporation to authorize such donations? That's if you agree to all what the other side says. If you agree to what the government says, then these questions will arise. But that's subject to my submissions that I've made to your laws. The shareholder argument, I placed there, paragraph 43, the objects of the company and all that, which I've already comment upon. Then I've given the history. Then 2013, my lord asked the question, the cap of 7.5, that's at para 47.